Sami Hamdi is an editor at International Interest and Online News Magazine. He joins us now from London via Skype. Could you just add to the conversation what it is specifically about the airport in Hodeida, why it is so critical, what is happening now?
We have to remember that Hodeida has been a very key city in terms of supplying the Houthis with exactly what they need in order to be able to sustain this war of attrition that they've been conducting in Yemen. The Houthi gamble has always been that as long as they can stay in Sanaa, as long as they can stay in Hodeida, then international pressure will force Saudi Arabia to the table to discuss negotiations. They've used the airport and the seaport to receive the aid, to impose taxes on the aid that has resulted in prices seeing more than 100% added to them, which has put a great hardship on Hodeida. So the war in terms of taking the airport and taking the port are absolutely fundamental for the coalition forces. It's because this is the battle that will cut off the lifeline for Houthi. If Hodeida is taken, there will be a severe weakening of Houthis' position, and it may well force the Houthis into a fight for survival that will mean that they take negotiations for peace much more seriously. Of course, the problem is that the Houthis have gathered most of their forces into Hodeida as a sign of just how important it is. We didn't see this in the other cities that the coalition were trying to take. The Houthis are desperate to make sure they don't lose it. So it's a fierce battle for the airport. It will be a fierce battle for the port. In terms of the aid that is coming in, you mentioned the aid as well. The aid, some of it has been going to the people, but most of it has been going to the Houthis. Many employees of the government have not had their wages paid as a result, because the Houthis, they need this lifeline, they need this supply. Therefore, the airport is important to the Houthis, but very important to the coalition forces who are seeking to break the back of the Houthi movement.
Okay, so let me go back to something you said a moment ago, that the Houthi rebels thought maybe that what's happening here could force some sort of negotiation, with the end game being what in those negotiations?
The end game is to become the most powerful political party in the Yemen political spectrum. The reality is that the Houthis, in the beginning of this conflict, they managed to push the Islah party, the Muslim Brotherhood. They managed to defeat them militarily. They managed to push the Nasserists out as well. Essentially, the Houthis are not seeking to take over all of Yemen. That dream has failed as a result of their failure to take Aden in the early days of the conflict. However, by staying in Sanaa, they seek a political solution by which they will be the de facto power in any political resolution. And that was the gamble. This is why they needed Sanaa and why they needed Hodeida. If they lose Hodeida, they will be forced to the table, to the negotiations, as an equal party like the Islah and like the Nasserists. This is not what the Houthis want. This is not what they were gambling for. And this is why the battle is so fierce. Because the Houthis, all that they've tried to achieve is now in jeopardy. And this is why we're going to see probably more fierce fighting in Hodeida than we've seen in any other city.
All right. Sami Hamdi, thank you so much for your insight on this. We appreciate it.